I think we'll start now, everyone. I want to welcome you all to the Narrative Project. My name is Frances McKecken, and I'm happy to be your co-host for this session. I'd like to acknowledge that we are, or many of us, are on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and we are grateful to the Mi'kmaq for their stewardship of the land and their generosity to the first settlers through the peace and friendship treaties of 1725. And I'm calling you today from Unama'ki, which is most recently known as Cape Breton. And what an honor it is for me to share this Zoom call with all of you and with the incredible women behind this award-winning and powerful documentary, Conviction. This session is part of a series hosted by the Narrative Project and Weave East. Our last session for the season will be next Thursday at the same time. And the Narrative Project has allowed us to virtually gather and explore questions on important topics, focusing on moments and stories that we would like more of, while shedding light on persistent narratives that may no longer serve us. So we're using an approach called reauthoring, which was developed by Shanae Swart. And at the core of reauthoring is the belief that everyone should have the storytelling rights to their own life. And it's about putting the pen back in our hands and then collectively uncovering, highlighting, and thickening counter narratives that better reflect our values and beliefs. And the film Conviction is certainly a powerful example of reauthoring. It tells the story of female incarceration from the perspective of the people most impacted, the incarcerated women. And the link to the documentary was shared with us, was made available to us through the NFB, and we shared with everyone who registered for the session. So we hope you had time to have a look at the documentary. I watched it last night for the second time, at the same time as a friend was watching it for the first time, and we were texting back and forth as we watched it. And really all we could text was words like, "Oh my God, this is so sad, it's so disturbing. These women are amazing, they're so insightful, so brave. What vision and what strength," and on and on. Soon Senator Kim Pate will be giving us some context for today's discussion. But first we're going to spend a few minutes warming up our listening skills and connecting with each other in a breakout room. So as a side note, if you're having any technical issues at all, please send a message to Ulo in the chat. And also, if you need to take a break, please do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. So our tech team will put us into small groups where you'll introduce yourself and just share a bit about what brings you here today. And we'll put the questions in the chat and you will be able to access the questions in the breakout room. So we will see you soon. Enjoy your conversation.
Are we all back?
Hello, David Seller.
Some of us are.
How are you, man?
We're back.
All right, so I hope everybody was able to introduce themselves and get to know each other in a different way in the breakout rooms. And we're now going to get started. I'm El Jones. I'm here in Halifax, Jabuktuk, the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq people, governed by the Peace and Friendship Treaties of 1752. And I'm just going to be guiding you through this afternoon, which is really exciting to see so many people here to talk about conviction, to talk about the issue of incarceration, women, the trauma that places women in prison, and to hear more importantly from the filmmaker of this film, as well as women with lived experience who have been incarcerated and involved in this, who is the real priority today. But I'm going to open by introducing Senator Kim Pate to you. And everybody who knows Kim knows that she does not want to be called Senator Pate or given a title, and also that Kim's work has, for her life, has always valued women who are incarcerated. So rather than me introducing her, I want Sara Tessier to Oops. Are we able to unmute Sara?
We go. Thanks, Al. Yes, so Senator Kim Pate, what can you say about her? She's just one of the most fabulous people on the face of the earth. Her dedication to marginalized, criminalized, and victimized individuals throughout not just the communities, but the nation as a whole. The work she does in the Senate now, the work she did as executive director for CAFES. I mean, it's just it's beyond words the amount of respect and love that I have for this woman. She is definitely one of the most brilliant and selfish and just she's a mentor. She's a friend. She's somebody that I love and respect so much. And her, like I said, it's unprecedented, her dedication and the amount that she gives to everybody and the lives that she touches on an individual basis. And no matter where she goes in life, you know, being called to the Senate and everything, she still takes the time to work with individuals within the prisons, within the communities, and without hesitation, without question, she's there to support and guide people. And because of her, you know, I've got lived experience. I spent 5 years in prison, and I'm able to come out now. I'm going to Dalhousie Law next September to get my law degree. And, you know, and the work that I do and everything is all because of her and the support and love that she's given me. And I can't say enough about her. So I just like to welcome Kim Pate and say, I love you, my dear friend.
Thank you, Sara. You're making me cry. That's really beautiful. And Kim, we're so happy to have you here. I know you don't have a lot of time. We're just introducing this film. People have watched it and then they're going to discuss it today. This film was made a few years ago now, a couple of years ago. Why do you think it's so timely right now for people to be watching this in this moment?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And I want to say I come to you from the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe, as you know, that's also known as Ottawa and Turtle Island. I want to say special thanks, and I'm both humbled and honored and, you know, quite frankly, take on the responsibility of that incredible introduction, Sara, so thank you. The feeling is mutual, and it's sending tingles down my back thinking, you know, how much work we still have to do. But in terms of, to answer your question, Ellen, thank you for all the incredible work you do every day, every moment. I can't tell you how many times I've received texts from this woman at God knows what hour and trying to figure out, you know, how we can move things. But you know, in right now, as we have the movement to defund police, to abolish prisons, it's vital that we have the discussion about how we could and should be investing resources that right now are being expended on prisons and policing, on criminalizing, on marginalizing, criminalizing, and institutionalizing people who have the least. And in fact, part of the reason I can't stay as long, and I do apologize to everybody, is today in the Senate, I'm probably going to be voted down, but I actually tried to stop a bill that still didn't have funding for the poorest 1 in 10 folks in this country who still are not being supported during this pandemic. And it's trite now to say that the pandemic has laid bare. It may be to the people who didn't know, but I know everybody on this call knew the chasms that racism, class bias, gender bias that have created for the people who have the least. And so in this film, part of what initially I wasn't going to participate, I was, you know, the filmmakers will likely tell you I was a bit reluctant. But when it became clear that they were willing to engage in, you know, what other than prisons could we be doing, then I was all in. And so and when it involved the women who were directly impacted, then I was all in. And so I think what's vital is that we look at how we can ensure that the resources are put in place for people on the ground in community and not continually, you know, accepting. And I'm not, you know, I feel like I shouldn't even be saying this to this crowd, but for the folks who are out there who continue to accept endless spending on criminalizing and incarcerating people when those resources could do far more good and obviously benefit people in the community where they are. So I want to thank all of you for all the incredible work and support you do, and wish us luck, because I'll fail today, but next time maybe not. So thank you so very, very much. And I wish I could stay to participate more.
Thank you, Kim. If we need to let you go now, we can let you go. Thank you so much for being here. And I encourage people to pay attention to Kim's work in the Senate. Get on her mailing list, because you also get a lot of information about things like the Universal Basic Income Bill trying to be passed in the Senate, the work being done on solitary confinement, the work being done on sexual assault in prisons and trying to stop women from being strip searched, which is legalized sexual assault. And of course, the abolition of prisons, particularly for women, as we know. So we really salute Kim's work, and I encourage you to make sure that you're in contact with Kim's office and get on that mailing list so that you're really aware of what the work Kim is doing. And as Kim will tell you, work that's begun and sustained and ends in the women who are incarcerated and who are living these experiences every day. And
Thank you.
Not be here. So thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Sorry to be so short here with you.
That's wonderful. Thank you for your.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take good care.
So we've been talking about this film Conviction. Many, most, all, perhaps of you have seen it, but we're going to just bring it back into this room so people can reorient themselves into the film. And after we watch this trailer, we're going to go to a panel of the filmmakers and women who are involved in the film. So Bianca Mercer, Sara, Tessier, Ariel, and I think there's somebody else on the panel, which I have to look at because I didn't look at the thing before I said this. So we will go to the panel, but first we're going to go to the trailer. So let's bring that in, and everybody, let's think about Conviction. I was gesturing, unmute me, please. I wanted to be on mute, and that was a mistake. I won't do that again. So that trailer in itself is, I think it sends chills just to see so much in that film. And we're really, really honored today. And Tanya, I'm so sorry. Of course, I knew you were here, but in the moment, my mind blanked, and I didn't mean any disrespect. So I'm very, very sorry to have forgotten your name when I was introducing before. So we're really happy now to send you, I don't even want to call it a panel because that sounds formal, to send you into a storytelling conversation with people involved in this film. So Ariella, who is the filmmaker, Bianca Mercer, who is not only a woman with lived experience, but is a woman who has done so much work with from the ground up in really thinking through and planning and creating a whole model for how women can live in community without incarceration. Tanya, who has also worked alongside Bianca and many of the women, began as a correctional officer and has now worked in community and continues to work in community with women to move away from incarceration. And Sara Tessier, who is involved in the film during that, when you heard the beautiful poetry and music that the woman created, you saw Sara was part of that as well. So we have many of the women who are involved in this film and are involved in this broader project. So welcome. It's such an honor to have all of you here, and this is your show. So rather than introducing you further, could we go around and each of you just say a quick something about yourself so people know who you are? I'll just go left on my screen. I'm going counterclockwise, which leaves me first with Ariella. So introduce yourself very quickly.
Hi there. I'm Ariella Pahlke, and I'm one of the 3 filmmakers actually who came together to create this film. The other 2 are Teresa McGinnis and Nance Ackerman. We also co-produced it with the National Film Board of Canada and Annette Clark, and Teresa's and our partner Kent's company, C2C Productions. So just wanted to say that it was a very large, multi-layered collaborative project. Is that enough for now?
Yep.
Or
perfect. Tanya, you're next on my screen, so please just say something about yourself.
Hi, I'm Tanya Bignell, and I was a correctional officer for 10 years at Burnside. I've moved on, and now I work for the Department of Community Services and Income Assistance. And I'm very proud of being a part of this film and continue on as I work beside Bianca. And we have from the ground up that we have started. She's the president, I'm the vice president, and we're finally registered as a not-for-profit organization.
Thank you, and that's exciting. Bianca, I see you next, and you have a guest with you as well.
Hi, I'm Bianca, and this is my daughter, Harmony. Like Tanya said, I'm the president of a now non-for-profit organization called From the Ground Up, and we are working towards an alternative to prison and hopefully changing the way people think and get punishment out of people's heads, because it doesn't work. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. And you can see that Bianca is mothering as she gives her time to this panel. And that shows you not only, I think, what amazing people these women are, but also how many demands are on this and people taking time to talk about this important issue while literally mothering a baby. Sara, you're next and not last. So please go ahead.
Thanks, Al. Yeah, actually, I was signed up to be part of this documentary, and what had happened was, as peer advocate for CAFES inside the Nova Institution for Women, they didn't like me participating in things, so they always prevented me from doing so. So what I did was I just helped the people that were involved within the Nova Institution on the sidelines. So that's what I did for my role, but I can talk about my advocacy and my lived experience as well.
Yes, and tell us briefly what you do. You're working with Coverdale right now.
Yeah, so I work with Coverdale Court Work Society as a peer mentor. I also work as an outreach staff for the GATE program for Elizabeth Fry Society. I'm on the Lived Experience Committee for CAFES. I'm on the Board of Directors for Seven Step Society of Nova Scotia, Board of Directors for Elizabeth Fry Society for their governance, housing, and advocacy committees. I work with Legal Aid Youth on restorative justice opportunities for domestic violence. Actually, it's an alternative criminalization program that I'm putting together to navigate around the moratorium. And I also work for Wellness Within and the Trafficking and Exploitation Services System Committee and the African Nova Scotian Affairs Mobilizing Partnership Program Advisory Committee.
So just in that, you see how many different pieces there are working on this issue. And this film covers many of these really important social issues: race, trauma, poverty, housing, the things that lead women in particular, and non-binary and trans women as well, into incarceration. So Arielle, I'm going to start with you on this first question. Why did you want to make this film? Why did you think it was important to put this out there?
I had been talking with Nance and Teresa. We kind of spent a couple of years actually exploring ideas. We wanted to join forces to take on a bigger project. We'd all been independent filmmakers, and they had both met Kim Pate. And I had seen her just online and on talks and things. And we were kind of really inspired by her analysis about this, and also kind of perplexed by the statistic that women are the fastest growing prison population in Canada and worldwide. And so we wanted to take just kind of look at this, but look at it from the perspective of women inside. Also, personally, I had a child who's 13 now, but when we started making the film, I think he was around 6 or something. And so just kind of thinking about the whole idea of punishment as a bigger concept, and how really, like, it just doesn't work. And I had kind of I had the feeling and the belief that prisons didn't really work, but I felt like I kind of wanted to engage more with that whole topic of why, as a society, we're doing this thing, we're so invested in this thing that really isn't working. And I felt like to do that, I mean, anytime I'm kind of interested in something, being a filmmaker, it's sort of an excuse to actually delve into something that you're just curious and wondering about.
Thank you. I'm just going to go in the same order, then you'll always know when it's your turn. Tanya, it must have been a bit unusual as a correctional guard to be involved in this film. So why did you choose to become involved in this?
Well, the superintendent at the time, Paulette, came to me and they needed a champion for the video. And that was basically for the safety and security of the documentary ladies coming in, the directors and stuff. So it was mainly to watch over equipment, make sure nothing bad happened, yada, 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 the normal, make sure everything's up and up. But as we started progressing, I started getting involved in the artwork and whatnot myself. And I've always had a, a big heart, and I'm a big social person. So I always had a good relationship with the women inside, and I always talk to them, take the time for them. So of course, when we're sitting around a table and there's Play-Doh, what am I going to do? I'm going to start playing with it, and start drawing and coloring. And when you hear their stories as they're coming out, it starts hitting you in the feels. And because there's some stuff that they don't just share with anybody. So when they choose you and they share with you, it's an honor, because that is part of their darkest, deepest secrets. And it's where the wounds are, that lay within them. So being able to be a part of it helped me open up more as well. And I mean, I moved on from the prison. I left there in 2018 because it's not the place for me. My heart's too big for that place. No concrete jail is going to be able to hold me back from helping these women.
Thank you, Tanya. That's beautiful. Many of you who have seen the film know that it's not just made by filmmakers. The women are active participants in making their films. And Bianca, you were one of those women, a really central part of that. So why did you choose to get involved? And was it difficult to put yourself out there and have your whole story out there for the world?
At first, when I first heard about the film, I was kind of just like, oh, another jail film. Like, they're going to come look at us like we're a little project and whatever else. But once I got to sit down with all the women and I got to meet Kim Pate, and I kind of grew more passion for the film, and I got more excited. And while you're in jail, you don't really have much to do. So we all become very artistic, and we're like chameleons. We kind of blend in with our surroundings, and we figure out new ways of life and how to use certain things, and we create makeup and all this. So when we had all these art supplies and we had women actually willing to listen to us, we were all kind of gung-ho, and we just wanted to tell our story. It was more after the fact and after the film had started, where I was kind of more pushed back about it being out there, because it is my life. And like here in Halifax now, like I can't get a job, just certain things like that. Now my life is out there, it's on a film, it's on Google. It's really hard to hold a job without getting fired and certain stuff like that. But hopefully from the ground up becomes bigger than anything, and I can have a job there and give jobs to women who struggle with the same thing, like me not being able to hold a job and people judge you because of it. There's a lot of amazing people, like people here that understand, but it is really, really hard after the fact. But before the fact, it was great. I was really excited. And I'm very proud of how the film turned out, and sharing some very, very emotional parts of my life was hard, but it just come naturally. And that's what's so amazing about the film, that it's just so natural and it's not forced, and it just tells such a raw story that people need to hear. So that part is just, I'm really proud of that.
Thank you, Bianca. And I just wanted to pause on that, because Bianca has said something really important about the consequence of telling your story and the price she's paid. So I encourage people who came here to look up from the ground up and think about how you can support that. Whether that's through a donation, whether that's you might have some resources, you might be able to help with grants and know how to do that. So let's not just listen to Bianca or other women like her story and then say, that was nice, I cried, and walk away. Bianca is talking about the real consequence of that story, and that she told that story for other women. So I really encourage us during and after this event to really think about how we can continue to support in real material ways. Sara, you mentioned you weren't able to be a part of the film. Much of the film is in Burnside, but then it did go to Nova, which is a federal institution. And so I just wondered if you could maybe say a bit about that, and even the barriers you talked about. I know it's very difficult for filmmakers to get to Nova, like there's a lot going on. So maybe you could set some of the stage for us in Nova and the particular barriers also around women expressing themselves or having access to things like this film.
Absolutely. Thanks, Al. So yeah, so in the federal system, it's a little different because access is very difficult to get. And Al, you know that yourself from trying to be in there and do your work in there. So, I mean, to be able to access the outside world is something that they frown upon because they don't want information getting out there as to what actually goes on within the correctional system. And that's something I've experienced time and time again throughout my 5 years of being incarcerated. Working as an advocate inside, I was able to, and also not just as an advocate inside, but working with Senator Kim Pate and Elizabeth Fry Society and El Jones and wonderful people that I can access, and also with the Citizens Advisory Committee and all the other organizations, 7 Step Society that I was involved in. I was actually able to get more information out to the public than most people could. But people that are inside, that are incarcerated, these are victims. These are victims of, systemic abuse, of, family abuse, histories of trauma. And so when you're incarcerated, it's no different. You're being systemically abused, you're being traumatized, you're being victimized. And to be able to have somebody who has a voice and be able to stand up for the other women and individuals, trans folk and non-binary and inside, it's very difficult, and it puts a huge target on you. So, there's so many different consequences that I've faced for having a voice and for doing the work that I did. And to be able to voice that in a media platform like this is something that they try and prevent, which is why I didn't get to join and be a part of this documentary, even though I really tried hard. And so I had to use my voice in other ways. And, and that's what I continue to do. You can't just access media. You can't just access the police if you need it. Not that the police are any good, but in some circumstances, that's what you need. And that's something I had to face in there as well, is being, sexually abused by a guard inside the prison. And several other women who were also victims prior to me, who were just shunned and told that they were lying, and nothing came of it. And if it wasn't for all the work I did and the network of people that I had in my corner, I probably would have been the same too. I would have been dismissed. But because I was able to use that advocacy and that passion inside me to make change, I was able to get evidence and document things and make a change. And that's what I continue to do out here. That's why I have this motto of no one left behind. I made it out of the system. I'm still on parole for another 2 years and change, but I made it out of the system. But I sure don't forget those who are left behind, and I sure don't leave them behind, and I still fight for them to this day. And that's what they need. They need voices in the community. They need people that'll stand up for them and not forget about them when times get tough. And although, I've been segregated, I've been maxed, I've been, institutionally charged for having a voice, it didn't deter me from doing my job. It only made me fight harder, because the more they threw at me, the more I knew I was doing my job right. And look at with Elle, even with you, you'd come in and do the poetry with us and stuff like that. And then you and I sit there talking about advocacy one day, and they prevent you from coming back in again because we can't be doing that. But did it stop us? No, it didn't. We still kept our voice, and we still keep it to this day. And we still fight for those who don't have the capabilities or the ability to have that voice for themselves. And that's what this is all about. And that's what the documentary Conviction is about. It's about getting the voices heard so that people see you and stop dehumanizing people. That's what Conviction does. It shows everybody as a human and as an individual, and that's what we are. You know, we're not in there because we're not human beings. We're not in there because we're bad. We're in there because we're victims of a system that failed us from the get-go. And that's what we need to change. We need to be supporting community resources. We need to be funding, you know, mental health services, addiction services, trauma-informed therapy in the community, at the community level. We don't need prisons. Prisons shouldn't have to exist. There's no need. They're not a place for people to get better. It's strictly punitive. There's no reform. There's no rehabilitation inside of them. All it is more violence, more trauma, more abuse, and more victimization of marginalized people. The most marginalized and victimized citizens in our nation are sent to prisons and re-traumatized all over again and re-victimized all over again. We need to put our resources and our community together. We need to come together as a community. We need to fight within the community to keep prisons a non-essential thing, because that's what they are.
Thank you, Sara. Well, now we can, you know, that said it all. So I hope everybody was taking notes. This next question, I know we have like, it seems like a long time, and then when we're all talking, it's a shorter time. So this question, let's do this, like try and keep them brief, I guess. The question I wanted to ask is for each of you, is there a moment in the film that stands out and why? And that can be what, like making it obviously, or I mean, Tanya, for example, I'm really interested in like when things started switching over and transforming for you as well, because you went through a transformation in this film. So a moment in the film that really stands out for you and why that is. Ariella, go ahead.
Okay, I've thought about this. There's so many, but I will just choose one moment, which was the first time after 7 months of meetings and trying to get into the prison in Burnside, which was quite difficult. We finally were allowed to come in and do a presentation to a group of women who would then be allowed to volunteer or not if they wanted to be part of the film. So we really just came in, introduced ourselves, the three of our work, and just talked about our approach to the film. And I think there were 11 women there, and 10 ended up joining us in the project of the film. And I guess what struck me so much was how insightful and intelligent and creative and keen and really inspiring that very first discussion was, when we didn't know anybody. And it wasn't that I was expecting that it wouldn't be. It's just that I've taught, you know, I've done lots of collaborative film projects. I've incorporated art, and I've taught classes at NASCA, the art college here. And I have to say, after working with that group of women that you see at the beginning around the big table, you know, I think that when I think of classes that I taught at the art college, there wasn't, you know, as much insight and creativity and just a real keenness to just express themselves. And I was just so inspired by that. And, you know, without having known anybody, you know, all that got much more after we got to know people. But the very first moment, and even just really great questions people asked. And I remember saying to the warden at the time afterwards, she said, how did you feel about that? And I said, well, it was just, I was so amazed that by the questions people asked, they were, you know, so confident and articulate and insightful, really interesting questions. And she actually said, oh, you know, that's, I can't remember the exact words, but she said, oh, that's just, they're just trying to manipulate you. And, you know, again, so it's kind of I was so struck by that. I'll never forget it. You know, what for me is like a great question for somebody in the prison system is somebody else who's trying to get away with something or manipulate or get something they're not supposed to have.
And Sara was alluding to this, for example, about how I got kicked out of Nova for illegally counseling the woman, which basically meant that I asked people questions about their lives. So you're also speaking about the ways, the dehumanization that Sara has spoken about. I also used to hug women, and that was a problem, I suppose. So Tanya, you know this very well, I'm sure, having seen it firsthand, but what was a moment that stood out for you? And also for you, I'm very interested in this process that brought you into this transformation and understanding how you could not continue to be inside the system. So can you talk a bit about maybe how the film or a moment in that film brought you to this place?
Well, there was a couple of different spots that really stood out. And one of the parts is when I was releasing Trina out the back door and releasing her with a garbage bag with her most prized possessions in it, and just opening the door and saying goodbye. You know, it just seems such a sad way that we send a human being out back into the community and think that they're going to be able to be successful and survive. A garbage bag with notebooks in it and some treats, you know, pretty much is all we give them. But the part that really hit me hard was, and I don't know if it quite, I don't believe it made it to the cut of the actual film, but we were doing like a mock strip search and we were trying to get it with the casted shadow on the wall. And we had one of the fully dressed women holding on to clothes, but like I was going through my monologue of when they come in and we do the strip search and getting them to hand me the clothing. And then we were trying to get the shot of it on the wall, the silhouette, to kind of put that onto the film. And it just kind of hit me that, you know, these women, a lot of them have been traumatized so badly and sexually abused and used in so many different ways. How much worse are we doing to them when they come in the back door and we're stripping them of everything, even their dignity? You know, it's really sad because I myself am a sexual abuse survivor. So I know me coming in the back door of the same jail and being strip searched, I know how that would affect me emotionally, mentally. So we are damaging these women even more. And we've got the legal power to do it. And that's not right in my eyes. And I'm done with that. And I can't do that anymore.
Thank you, Tanya. And I think I keep always saying I want to pause here, and I always want to pause to just give us moments to reflect on this, because what Tanya is also talking about is what happens when you are able to see each other beyond uniforms and beyond the prison uniform, the guard uniform, and realize how many shared experiences there are, and this kind of divide that's created in a prison that keeps women who share experiences from each other. And so you're saying something really powerful that I just want to emphasize, Tanya, about how when you are able to step out and see each other together as equals and as shared experiences, how much that changed for you. So I really honor you for saying that. Bianca, what was a moment in the film for you? And you, of course, both were being filmed and making your own film. So you were really on both sides of the camera. But was there a moment in this filming that stands out for you?
One of the biggest things that stand out for me is when I'm on the park bench and I was actually at the Dartmouth Commons and I was trying to get into detox, and I was calling E-Fry, I'm calling pretty much anyone I could think of that had a place that I could stay for after I get out of detox. And I just kept getting voicemail after voicemail. And when I didn't get a voicemail, it was a no, and sorry, we can't take you because you're on drugs. And I'm like, it was just really sad. And I'm dialing the numbers and you can hear me dialing and you can just hear the voicemail. And I'm literally so messed up on drugs that like I was falling asleep. And every time I see that, it hits home because it really is like that. It's not like that wasn't just a hype. That's really, it is like that here. Like you call for help all the time and you just don't ever get through. And when you do get help, it's just a small little bit of help. It's not like guaranteed helping you get out of these situations and these dangers. So even after leaving that day where she was filming me, after leaving, I went back to where I was staying in this holy bed bug infested apartment with two people that I ended up getting charged with later on that summer. And it's just sad to think that I wanted help, I just couldn't get it. And I'm blessed to be where I am today, but that was really, really hard. And every time I see that, and giving my daughter, after she passed away, giving her to the nurse, and like me just crying and saying, like, how could people do this? Like, I'm so angry sometimes. I think all the time, if I wasn't in jail pregnant, maybe my daughter would still be alive because I would have had access to healthcare. So that, and that day I was on that park bench falling asleep because I was so messed up. Those are the two things that stand out so much. And every time I see, and just, it's heart-wrenching that I had to go through those things. So, yeah.
And I really, again, want to say how courageous Bianca is in sharing these things over and over and over again. So she says, every time I watch that scene. So meaning that every time having to see that. And why Bianca puts that on film is so people like you can understand, right? And it's such a raw moment. She also mentioned the death of her daughter. And I really encourage people to read Maggie Raw's story on that, where you can see more of the details of what Bianca went through there. And what she's continued to fight for with women. So thank you, Bianca, for really sharing those moments. Sara, again, you weren't in the film, but you've seen it. So what moment stands out for you? Well, you were in it. I remember you being you're in it. So, but what stands out for you?
So I think, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint just one specific thing. Like, the entire thing is just so powerful, and, you know, it makes such an impact. I'd have to say that the hardest part of the film for me to watch was the passing of Bianca's daughter. I lost my daughter Christmas Day of 2010, and I was out in the community. I didn't have to deal with the same things that Bianca did by being incarcerated at the time of her pregnancy and stuff. So I think that really hit me so hard. And with my own experience too of being inside the system and the lack of healthcare services and the lack of access to healthcare. It just, that really hit hard. And, you know, but the entire thing just made me realize that, you know, this is exactly where I need to be, making a difference, making policy changes and fighting for those. And that's what led me to the whole No One Left Behind.
And as women like Bianca, many others fought for a change. For example, women going to prenatal appointments in shackles and in orange jumpsuits. You know, these are the kind of obstacles. And people say obstacles, that's what they mean by an obstacle. Being strip searched while you're pregnant, you know, so you can go out to your medical appointment.
We actually changed that.
Yeah, because of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bianca.
So that's great.
So do you want to say anything more? Go ahead. I didn't mean to step on top of that.
Yeah. So what she just said, the orange jumpsuit and shackles, while I was in jail, I segged myself. I went on strike. I was in my seg cell. I would not leave. I was there for, I think, 11 days. I finally left, but I wouldn't go to my appointments because it was just so draining to go to these appointments when I did have them, that I was shackled and in jumpsuit, and it was so exhausting and embarrassing. And those joys of pregnancy, of seeing your ultrasound and finding out the sex and just everything, and they took that away from me. And it's just, being in those shackles and those orange jumpsuits is just so humiliating. So I'm happy to say that women now can wear their sweatpants, and it's at their own discretion to use shackles. So the sheriffs don't have to if you're pregnant. So just those little things and changing those for the women, it's just so rewarding. It really was rewarding. So yeah, go ahead, Elle. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's really important. This is your space. You're the most important voices here. We only have time for one more question, believe it or not. The last question I wanted to ask is just what has changed since this film, and what difference has it made in your life? And also perhaps what difference do you see it making in the world? Ariella, you're first.
So just a brief update about what's happened with the film. We finished it, I think it was about 1.5 years ago. It's had probably about 80 screenings now, combination of film festivals, mostly Canadian, a few in the States, and one online festival in Scotland. and some many community screenings, great partnership with Elizabeth Fry societies in different parts of Canada. They've often sponsored a screening. The NFB will give it, just in case any of you are interested in hosting a screening. You can contact me through the website, convictiondoc@gmail.com. The website is convictiondocumentary.com, and or through our Facebook group, and I can set you up with our screenings coordinator at the NFB. They will give the film for free for community screenings, so there's no cost involved. I mean, people have had small screenings just with a book club. Online screenings are happening a lot now. And if there's any group, or people have workplace screenings, board retreat screenings, or larger screenings, and we can often help facilitate anyone in the film that you're particularly interested in hearing from to be part of that. Personally, I think it's really important to get the film out to groups, people who might not agree with the film. I think that's what I've had a couple of neighbors who've seen it, who we've had really great conversations about it, and who have said, that actually changed the entire way that they thought about kind of privilege and punishment. So I think if anyone here is connected with a group of people who you think you'd like to show the film to, that might not already agree with some of this, that would be awesome as well. It's available for educational institutions. Again, just reach out. I don't want to do PR thing here. Just reach out to me, and I can help facilitate anything like that. And just briefly, I mean, personally, the film has completely really had an impact on me and changed a lot. I mean, I don't even know where to begin, but I think that one of the key things that I'm proud of and I keep thinking about in relation to the film is really the process and the relationships, and how, that a collaborative approach of making something. I think often the media, specifically conventional media, is very can be very exploitative. And I think just thinking about how we create things together versus about somebody is just really important. And I think that relates to the whole basis of the narrative project too, and sort of changing authorship of certain dominant narratives.
Thank you. Tanya, you've already mentioned some of what changed for you, but what continues to change after this film?
Bianca and I are working on From the Ground Up, our not-for-profit society. So we're just trying to get our feet a little wet there. We're going to try and do some outreach throughout the winter for homelessness on the streets. Of course, right now, homelessness is skyrocketing. I'm just working with the Department of Community Services, and hopefully from the inside, I can try and look to make change within that area. But other than that, yeah.
Has there been any response to you from correctional officers speaking about this?
Yes, there's quite a few correctional officers that have moved on from the facility. I'm very close friends with them all. And a lot of them, after they've left and seen the film, they're very proud of it. They're understanding how toxic the environment is within the facility. So it's, the turnover right there is really, really intense right now. It has been for the past few years. It's just not working. It's not. How are you going to correct somebody when you're going off of a penalty kind of thought process, when you're penalizing somebody? They don't go together. So the correctional facility it's a breeding ground for hate. It's a breeding ground for disconnect within people's communities. It separates families. It affects the children. And then to come and see your mom or your dad through a glass, because at Burnside you can't even touch. It's just plexiglass. That's not normal. It's not humane especially for that child to have to see their parent like that.
Bianca, you've also said a bit about what's changed and also the difficulties you've had. Also, if anybody can do you guys have a fundraiser or anything for From the Ground Up? Is there a place people can donate, or how can people get involved with that? Bianca, if you could also maybe tell us that and any other answer you want to give.
So what's changed? I have a daughter. She's 1 year old. I'm a full-time mom. I'd love to get a job soon because that'd be great. But other than that, I'm just being a mom. I'm hopefully getting back into school, and that's pretty much it. I've been out of jail now for, it'll be, I think it was 4 years as of, or 3 years as of December 6th, I believe, 2017. So yeah, three years. And I've been clean now for 4. So it's definitely a huge change, and it's been great. To get From the Ground Up, we have where we can't offer charitable receipts until I think February, because you have to have it has to be an active not-for-profit for a year. So as of February, we can offer charitable receipts, but right now we just have our financial person. She has a bank account for us where we can accept e-transfer. We love getting help and advice. Right now, we just brought someone new on. Her name's Linda. She's basically helping us get more organized and getting a schedule going. We have our next meeting, actually, it's Saturday, so we'll have our meeting and we'll get the ball rolling. We're working on a number sheet so we can start presenting from the ground up to get more funding. I think right now, from Conviction, the filmmakers, they donated $1,000. Another man named David, he donated $1,000. These little kids, they donated. I have to actually, Tanya and I have to sit down and speak to these children because they have money to donate for the From the Ground Up that we're going to be using for our outreach in the community. So we get to sit down and talk to them, and making this conversation a normal household conversation. Like my daughter, she'll know about this stuff growing up. It's so important. Instead of guarding our kids from it, we need to be talking about it. So normalizing that conversation is super important. But we have an Instagram. I can leave it in the chat if you guys can make that open. And we have a Facebook group, we have a Twitter, and we have an email, and we got the e-transfer. So if anyone wants to donate, you can. If anyone has any resources to offer, like writing grants or ideas for fundraising, helping us schedule-wise. We have the architects who are really, really involved with From the Ground Up. They're the directors of the film. These guys, they've been amazing helping. And Tanya and I, it doesn't seem like we're doing a lot, but I know both of us are constantly thinking about how we can get through the barriers and the obstacles we have to get From the Ground Up to an EFRI or Coverdale basis. We want to be that big, if not bigger. We want to be an alternative. We want to help women, and it's so important to us to get to that point. So we're working as hard as we can through COVID and all of the craziness 2020 has to offer, and being a mom and her working a full-time job. So it's been crazy, but yeah, I'll put all of our social media handles in the comments and get that for everyone.
Thank you, Bianca. And Sara, very briefly, send us out of this discussion with just some final words for people as they're going to head into their breakout rooms. I know we're running a little bit late. We did start a bit late. So I'm asking 10 minutes grace from everybody. I know some people made other commitments. You may have to leave, but if you can give an extra 10 minutes to discussion, I promise you we'll get that in that time. But Sarah, very quickly, just send everybody into the breakout room with a message or something you want them to think about.
Sure. So one thing I can just say is just think about when it comes to social justice, where can you fit in? What can you do to be a part of change? Reach out to your local community organizations, reach out to individuals who may be in need and make a difference. That's what it's all about.
Thank you. And Sarah is peer counselor at Coverdale. She also works with the Elizabeth Fry Society. You can also donate there. As you're donating to From the Ground Up, you can also take some other donations. Coverdale and E-Fry also do holiday things. So take a look at those organizations as well. So now you're going to go back into your breakout rooms. Thank you so much to this panel for all that you shared, for being so vulnerable, for being so courageous, and more importantly, for your words taking action and the ways that not only for yourselves, but for everybody in these communities, because you speak, others are. So I'm really, really proud of all of you for being in this film, for making this, for the changes that we've heard about, the transformation in people's lives, the real serious change in their lives, and always done for other people. And that's the generosity, I think, of women in particular, where women always say, I did this so other women wouldn't have to go through what I went through. So we really honor that conversation. Thank you so much to everybody. And now I'll stop talking. Please go into your breakout rooms, and I wish you a good conversation. Thank you.
Just before we go into breakout rooms, our breakout room didn't work well last time,
Okay.
and there was no questions. So, and there was only 2 of us. And I don't know if that was a technology issue, but I'm not sure going into this breakout room is going to be any different, but it would be nice if it was. So if the technical
if it works, I can give you questions at least. The questions are, what struck you in what you heard? What has moved you, and what action are you inspired to take? So now that you've heard this conversation, what has moved you, and what actions have you been inspired to take? So let's see if those rooms work. I guess if not, somebody text and then we'll let you all back in, I guess, but we'll try them again.
Yeah, I was also only in one. I had one other person as well.
Oh, so we're in groups of 2?
I think given the time, what we will do is we'll maybe answer those questions in the chat.
Yes, that's perfect.
And instead of going into the breakout rooms. So maybe if we can put those questions in the chat and we can reflect on what struck us from the conversation today, that would be wonderful.
Yes, that's great. So if people could write that down, we'll take a couple of minutes maybe and write your thoughts into the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your stories. So once again, as we're writing our in the chat, the questions are, what stood out for you? What surprised you? What moved you? And what action are you inspired to take?
And Sara just wants us to know that she actually has a Coverdale meeting, so she has
Okay.
now left to go to that, since we kind of jumped her into this last minute.
That's fine.
So I'm going to read some of these responses as they come in, and then we will wrap up. So we have some answers here. It's going really fast now. So many things in this film, it's hard to pick. What Trina being in and out of corrections for 10 years and getting no supportive treatment, and the waste of her talent and brilliance. Shock at the lack of resources offered. Why there's no conflict resolution. Mike was shocked by the sense of hope in a situation that could have defeated more determined people. Lynn says how incredibly brave these women are, having worked into corrections and now in social programming has allowed me to meet some of these incredible people, or most incredible people. Their stories are real and unfortunately so common. Jorge is inspired by the opportunity to create community and suggests that task groups are created from the attendees to this call. That's a really good idea. For example, financing, marketing, organization strategy, so that people who have resources and ideas can continue this conversation. Let's put a pin in that. I know there's some church leaders and religious leaders in this meeting as well, and I hope that maybe people can speak to their congregations and think about some of those resources as well. Bianca has answered. So Bianca said what moved her is watching how all us women come together and show so much confidence and resolution for change and how hard we worked. And speaking about change is amazing. Michael is moved by how Bianca and Tanya have created this nonprofit to continue the work. Terry is moved by Bianca's entire story and courage, and the shoes, the damn orange sneakers, and the loss of all personal possessions. Lynn Bradley is trained in Gladue writing and wants to push forward work for justice in PEI, I suppose meaning decarceration, working with women on alternate strategies. So thank you. We have people in PEI. Duncan is moved by stories and bravery. It's going too fast now. So I hope people will save this chat if there's a way to save it. Hopefully we can do that. And I know that particularly the women involved in the film would love to see these responses, as well as the people responsible in this project. So I'd read them all, but now they're flashing by me and I'm trying to read them. And then I feel like I'm skipping people who probably have great responses. So let's save all of these responses as they come in, keep writing them. We really are wrapping up at this point. So Tanya, you look like you want to say something very quickly.
I'm just beside myself that everybody was so moved by the documentary and the women's story, and it's just unreal and it's amazing. And we really do thank you from the bottom of our hearts. From the ground up is a huge passion of mine and Bianca's. We really want to see it to come to fruition. We want to eventually buy property, start building, and have homes for women, so when they are released or an alternative to prison, we can build them from the ground up again, because that's what they need. They need that nurturing, they need that education, they need opportunity, and we want to do that. We want to connect them back with the community, and that's how we're going to do it, from the ground up.
Thank you. And I believe, Fahima, you had something you wanted to say as you take us out, so maybe you could wrap us up. And I think, Francis, you're closing this out. So thank you, everybody. Please keep typing in the chat as we end. I hope that is saved. And Fahima, go ahead.
I just wanted to first thank all of the guests, as well as you, Elle, for participating and sharing the story. I think that this discussion was very, very important to have. I did want to bring attention to our last session next week it's practicing food sovereignty. So next week's session, we'll be exploring food sovereignty in practice with a focus on pillars 2 and 3, which are knowledge building skills and working with nature. So I hope you get to join us next week. Some of our guests will include Andrea Morrison, who foraged with her grandmother from a very young age, learning about local plants and how to use them. Sarah Jean Jones, an Afro-Caribbean Canadian queer fiber artist and farmer. And we will close the show with music by singer-songwriter Behrooz Mihar Khan, whose music is an amalgamation of Iranian and Indian musical traditions with that of jazz and other world music. So I hope that you get to join us next week for our final session, which I hope should be a really good one.
And if I could ask one last question, I asked if there's going to be a recording made of this presentation. Where would we find it? Because I had a lot of people that said they couldn't make it to this discussion, and they would love to see the recording, but could you post that as well for us? That would really be wonderful. And again, thank you so much.
Usually after the event on the next day, we do a recap, which will include a recording, which you can access through YouTube, but we'll be able to share that through our Facebook channels and social media as well with the partners who've been participating as well. Also with the transcript, we do also download the transcript so then people can kind of reflect on the discussion in chat as well.
I have a quick question. Is Donna Dingwell related to Dylan? Is she from PEI? I can't hear her.
It's Donna.
I know Dylan.
Donna's unmuted, so I guess she could.
Oh, okay. If I can, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yes, Dylan is my son.
Okay, good. I'm good friends with Dylan. So.
Oh, are you?
Yes, I seen your name. I was like, that sounds like Dylan's mom's name. So I had to ask.
Oh, are you from the island, Bianca?
No, I'm from Halifax.
Okay.
Actually, Athea's father was one of Dylan's best friend's daughter. So my little girl that passed away. Yeah.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
No, thank you so much. But yeah, that's awesome.
I'm just, anyway, this is just so powerful.
This is a very maritime way to end our conversation today. Thank you. Well, thank you so much to our guests, Ariella, Tanya, Bianca, and Sara. And of course, El Jones for hosting, doing such a wonderful job. And also, of course, to Senator Pate. This was a very special session. We will be sharing everything on the Narrative Project website. And yeah, thanks so much for everything. I think the chat comments says it all. And I think there'll be follow up on this for sure. So many thanks to you all.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Have a lovely day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.